War. War never changes. Except in Fallout, the role-playing game, it has. Greetings, Vault Dwellers, and welcome to the Wasteland. This is your Overseer speaking, Three-Eyed Townie, and today we're going to be taking a look at combat for Fallout, the role-playing game by Modiphius. Now, this video is a continuation of a Learn to Play series, where I'm breaking down the core rules of the game. In previous videos, I've gone over action points, luck, and skill tests, and all of those things come into play with combat, so if you haven't checked those out already, you might want to take a look. In Fallout the RPG, combat is turn-based. This creates a more structured environment to resolve each action that the characters take. Each character takes a single turn in what's known as a round. Now, there's no limit to how many rounds can take place in combat. Combat typically ends whenever it makes sense, like all the enemies are defeated, all the players go down, or maybe there's some kind of outside instance that prevents the combat from continuing. Combat begins with initiative. When combat begins, the player who initiated combat goes first. This could be a player or a trigger-happy NPC controlled by the Game Master. This character takes their turn immediately, and then the first round begins after. The character with the highest initiative goes first in the round, followed by the rest of the characters based on their initiative score, highest to lowest. Once the last character in the order takes their turn, the round begins again at the top with the character with the highest initiative score. A player's initiative is equal to the total of their perception and agility scores. A creature's initiative is determined by their body plus mind. An NPC's initiative is calculated the same way as a player's. It's important to note that some NPCs might have some kind of bonus on their initiative, and that'll be mentioned in their stat block. Players can also receive initiative bonuses from items, special equipment, and perks. So to recap, first you initiate combat. The player who initiated combat takes a turn before the start of the first round. Then you start the first round by ranking initiative. Characters go in the order of highest to lowest based on their initiative score. Then each character takes their turn in the order ranked, and you repeat this until combat's complete. Now that we understand the sequence of combat, let's talk about what characters can do on their turn. These are called actions. As a standard, characters can perform one minor and one major action per turn, the exception to this being if the character chooses to spend action points. They can spend one action point to perform an additional minor action. They can spend 2 action points to perform an additional major action. Now, it should be noted that if you perform an additional major action, the difficulty is increased by 1. A character can make their actions in any order that they choose, and they can only take up to 2 major and 2 minor actions in a single turn. Additionally, a character can only make 1 movement action per turn. A character's minor action can be used to do the following. Taking the aim action allows a character to re-roll 1d20 on an attack roll in that same turn. The draw item action allows the character to pick up an item within reach or pull one from their inventory. Additionally, this action allows them to put the item back where it was. The character can also use their minor action to interact with something in their inventory or something in their environment, like pushing a button or opening a door. The movement action allows the character to move up to one zone, to any position within medium range. The movement action can also be used to stand up from a prone position. A character can administer a dose of a chem that they're holding. They can do this on themselves or on another character within reach. If the character is not holding the chem, they have to draw it first. A character's major action can be used to do the following. A character can assist another character with their next test. When the character being assisted attempts their test, the assisting character would then roll their assistance. When assisting, the character can choose to give up their turn and assist on the other player's turn. The character can make a melee or a ranged attack, and we'll talk about that more later. If the player has an allied NPC under their command, they can choose one single major action for the NPC to take. If the NPC's action requires a test, the player will automatically assist. If it's a person, they'll use charisma plus speech. If it's a creature, they'll use charisma plus survival. And if it's a robot, they'll use intelligence plus science. With a defense action, a character can choose to protect themselves by making a skill test using agility plus athletics. The difficulty of this test is determined by their current defense rating. If they succeed on the test, they get to add 1 to their defense. They can also spend 2 action points to increase it by another point. With the first aid action, a character can choose to patch themselves up or another character within reach. The character makes an intelligence plus medicine test, and the difficulty is determined by the number of injuries that the patient has. The difficulty is increased by 1 if the character is attempting first aid on themselves. If a character succeeds on their medicine test, they can choose to heal a number of HP equal to their medicine rating, stabilize a dying patient, or treat 1 injury. A character can also choose to pass on their turn and not take any action. The character can also take an action known as rally. The character takes a moment to stop and take stock on their current situation and makes an endurance plus survival test at a difficulty of 0. Any successes generated by the test automatically become action points. The Game Master may allow the player to use a different combination of attribute plus skill to perform the test, depending on how they narrated the situation and exactly what they're trying to do. For example, if they're trying to inspire their teammates, it might be a charisma plus speech. The character can also ready an action. A character will describe a situation that they believe is going to happen, and if that does happen before the end of that turn, they get to take their action immediately, interrupting the initiative order as necessary. If more than one character readies an action for the same situation, their actions are resolved in the order of the initiative for those characters. A character can also use their action to sprint, which allows them to move up to 2 zones, anywhere within long range. With the Game Master's permission, a character can also perform a skill test if it's not covered already by the other combat actions. Many of these combat actions involve action points, luck, and skill tests, and I go over all of that in the previous videos in this series, so if you're interested in more information, definitely check those out. There's a lot more to cover when talking about combat, and we'll be diving into all of that in my future videos, but this should give you a general idea of the turn order and what kind of actions a character can take on their turn. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you found this breakdown helpful. This video is a continuation of a Learn to Play series, and we have so much more to cover. If you don't want to miss when the next video is coming out, hit the bell for notifications. As always, you can find the Fallout 2D20 unofficial fan community everywhere on the internet. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, and we have a very active Discord community as well. I'm going to leave links for all that in the description. You can also find me everywhere on the internet, and I'll leave links for that in the description too. And if you haven't already, you can pre-order Fallout, the tabletop role-playing game by Modiphius directly from their online shop, and I'll leave a link for that in the description too. Thanks again for watching. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and of course, I'll see you in the wasteland.